The global Sumud Flotilla has beautifully succeeded in demonstrating Israel's breaking point in terms of its naval blockade. Because firstly, the blockade was so occupied with trying to keep out the boats, it meant that the Palestinians in Gaza could actually fish. And you see lots of videos now of them bringing back hauls of fish because the Israeli boats were so focused on doing the blockade that they couldn't do what they usually do, which is shoot and murder any Gazan trying to fish in their own territorial waters. Secondly, there was a boat that got through. So out of just 42 boats that went out there was one boat, a Turkish one, can't remember the name, that actually got through to Palestinian territorial waters. And now Israel have a problem on their hand because they have just arrested 500 people on that flotilla. Did they do so legally? Absolutely not. So all of the mainstream media narrative about this flotilla was intercepted is deeply disingenuous. The interceptions happened about 70 nautical miles away from the shore, which is still the high seas, international water, where boats all have freedom of navigation and should certainly not be intercepted in any way there. So this is an act of piracy and it is an act of kidnapping to board those boats at that stage. Now, Israel has tried to defend itself legally by saying this was a naval blockade and there are rules around naval blockade, so we absolutely have every legal right to do that. Unfortunately for them, this theory was tested specifically in 2010 about a similar situation with a naval blockade by Israel, but it was deemed to be, that naval blockade, collective punishment on the Gazan people, and therefore a breach of Geneva Convention. So their actual blockade itself was illegal, and so there's no legal coverage for their illegal actions. And now they're in real trouble because amongst those 500 volunteers and activists that they captured and have taken to Israel and only deported a small handful yet, the rest they are putting in prisons, in punishing prison conditions. But amongst them, I count a good dozen or so MEPs, MPs, senators, councillors, and other political figures, active political figures, many of them from Europe. So in terms of MPs and MEPs, you've got representation here from France, Italy, Portugal, Ireland, Poland. What are they doing with them? Locking them up in harsh prison conditions, as Ben Gvir is bragging about in videos now. They have locked them up in the same conditions as terrorists, and he's bragging about the harshness of these conditions. This is problematic because the vast majority of that global Sumud Flotilla is actually from Europe. It's Europeans. And this is going to cause a lot of problems for Israel with Europe on the European parliamentary level and also in terms of individual governments. So let's see how it develops here. But Israel may have the full backing of the American government, but it is rapidly coming up against European collective action. And that is powerful because there is much more trade that Israel has with Europe than it has with the States. And it's about time that Europe stood up and acted together to deal with Israel and all of its war crimes and genocide in a very similar manner to how it's dealing with Vladimir Putin right now.